In a world of 350 billion movie podcasts, two chumps have decided that now is the time for cult movies to engage in combat. Disagreements will be had, blood may be spilled, and voiceover artists most definitely will not be paid. This is Cult Film Face-Off.
Hello and welcome to Cult Film Face-Off, episode 72. With me, as always, the man, the myth, the Chet Roivas.
Hello.
And I am Nick Leonard. We'd like to thank Andy McGregor for suggesting the pairing of films for this week's show. Who the fuck is this guy? On today's show, we're going to be looking at John Woo's two most iconic Hong Kong actioners. It's a bloody shootout using an ungodly amount of ammo with hardly ever any reloading and a smattering of white doves. We're, of course, talking about The Killer from 1989 versus Hard Boiled from 1992. First up, and attaching some sculpted fake facial hair while puffing on endless cigarettes is The Killer. A disillusioned assassin accepts one last hit in the hopes of using his earnings to restore vision to a singer he accidentally blinded, only to be double-crossed by his boss, The Killer.
One of the 10 best films of the year. A high-octane mixture of outlandishly stylized camp and outrageously sensational shootouts. Outrageously exhilarating, guaranteed to tingle the most jaded moviegoer's palate. A film concocted with nitroglycerin, the combined energy of the Road Warrior, RoboCop, and the Terminator. The Killer is great cinema. The Killer, a thriller comedy that will leave you breathless.
So, Chet, I know you've seen The Killer. I think you may have seen it with me, actually.
I think I might have watched it with you back, God knows when, 90s at some point. I remember I liked it. I don't remember much more than that, so this was like watching it fresh. You had seen it since then, I take it?
When I first watched it with you, I think I was in a stage of just watching every Hong Kong action film I could get my hands on. So I was like Bullet in the Head, A Better Tomorrow, The Killer, Hard Boiled. I saw The Killer probably half a dozen times back in the day. I hadn't seen it for, I would imagine, 15, 20 years.
Okay. When we spoke about John Woo recently, you said that you felt The Killer was his best.
That was as soon as you mentioned, whenever everyone mentions John Woo, I always go, The Killer's my favourite John Woo film.
Okay. We'll see if that's still the case after the end of the episode.
Absolutely. How did you find revisiting after this? So you only saw it once with me?
Once, yeah.
You never saw it again?
No, and I think we weren't in the... I wouldn't vouch for our state of mind at that point. But,
I wouldn't for the whole of that decade.
Yeah, likewise. But I remember I liked it, but I didn't remember a whole lot, much more than that. This is a film that I think is almost too influential. It's so,
It's Blueprint.
In a sense, I think it's kind of like Near Dark. Do you remember when we spoke about Near Dark and The Lost Boys?
Yes.
I said that Near Dark influenced so many filmmakers that a lot of the problems that were in that film were riddles that were solved by films who made their own movies after that. I feel like it's kind of... Anything that I could say is wrong with this film has been worked out later. It's just a point. It's like I said, it's almost too influential. Yeah. So this didn't hold up as brilliantly as I'd hoped, but the story is so classical.
I was just completely bold. I just loved watching this film again. Chow Yun-fat, it was great to just be with Chow Yun-fat again, where he just exudes cool.
He's the personification of charisma. He's a superb actor.
Effortlessly.
He has to convey so much with nothing, no dialogue. Action movies are never recognised by awards bodies anyway, but he's so... He's one of these. He gives the kind of performance where I think the whole film would collapse if he wasn't in it. He's that good at conveying a character and conveying so much without even saying a fucking word. So he's a superb actor
and amazing screen presence.
Yeah,
and there's nobody who I think can fucking fire off two guns like him. To be honest. Yeah, I mean, this film has got loyalty, it's very, there's loyalty, there's friendship, there's betrayal. What I forgot was how sombre some of the tone is.
I think that's throughout.
Some of it's really sombre. I forgot how sombre it was. There is huge amounts of melodrama and suspensions of disbelief. I mean, a mob boss sending all of his men to die over $100,000 is fucking ridiculous.
Yeah,
you think about the payroll. The blind singer, Jenny, not being suspicious about a random guy just coming along and paying for her hugely expensive new cornelias. Are they called cornelias?
Cornelias.
Corneas, that's it. My dyslexic, that's
fair enough. Yeah, I mean,
but that's fine. I forgive all of this. I mean, even probably the biggest one is the stubborn, hardened cop switching allegiances and being enamoured by Chow Yun-fat's character just when he shows some kind of like some moral fibre.
Yeah.
You could say there's some homoerotic undertones in play there.
Always.
I think that's absolutely fair comment.
Yeah, totally.
The ethereal score is a winner. I mean, yeah. I was just entranced by this. I loved every single second of watching the killer again. The action is just, it's a piece of art, I think.
Yeah, it's coherent, it's tightly choreographed,
and he created his own visual language.
Yeah, he really did. Yeah, and we'll talk more about that when we talk about the next film. But a lot of bromance. I mean, the thing is, men on opposite side of the law. Films about that sort of. It is a bromance, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
This wasn't the first, and it won't be the last. But they do tend to be slightly deeper now. So there's an element of sort of surface level. It sort of works on a very, very surface level, not more than that. But I found myself thinking, this is basically about two men who bond over killing, and they both have a slightly warped...
One can do it officially and the other one does it unofficially.
but they have a slightly warped sense of honour. What constitutes honour and why they think each other are honourable. The whole way through, because Chow Yun-fat at one time says, I always just assumed that the people I get were bad people. I'm like, that's pretty thin, mate. If I was going out and killing people, I'd think a lot more about it than just assuming. And it's because he doesn't want to deal with his situation. He doesn't want to deal with his career. He doesn't want to deal with his actions. And I thought, I wondered where this was going to go. And then it hits you with one of the most downbeat, bleak endings I've ever seen. And so when there's all this religious iconography that appears throughout it, it's not just there for no reason. It's actually quite a moral film. Yeah. So when they all... it's... the whole time Jenny was in the background knowing that that everybody knew that her sight was deteriorating through the course of the film.
But there's a whole thing about timing with this, which is very different to Hard Boiled. This has got you genuinely don't know what's going to fucking happen.
Yeah,
these characters are in peril. Yeah. I never really thought the characters in Hard Boiled were going to be in peril.
Okay, but that's fair comment. But I mean,
talking about the leads.
The ending was. I thought, okay, it's really because the whole way through I was thinking these aren't good people. This is actually, and they kind of come up.
Well, he's like an anti-hero. I mean, Chow Yun-fat is an anti-hero. Whereas in Hard Boiled, obviously, he's very clearly the hero.
But I think this is another reason the film must have been exciting when it came out, because when it came out in '89, we were still at a point at which I reckon you could probably get fired from a Hollywood studio for suggesting that there should be a downbeat, bleak ending. So this must have seemed like the new shit. And anything that breaks the mold is exciting.
And every single action film that has a shootout in a church with candles everywhere is ever indebted to the killer. And do I think that any other film has done it as good? No,
it hasn't.
That shootout in the church finale is a stupendous film sequence. Yeah. It's brilliant. It's unrelenting. It's expertly well choreographed. It just doesn't fucking let up. Yeah. And you don't know if they're going to make it out of that church or not. Yeah. And that tension is fucking palpable.
Yeah. I mean, when I was watching this, my mind was awash with action films from the 90s. Desperado, The Matrix, obviously a lot of Tarantino stuff. This really did change the way action movies are made. And there's every filmmaker who makes action films owes a debt to it in some way. And I was really satisfied by the fact that all of the religious imagery wasn't there for no reason. It's a very, very moral film. Chow Yun-fat was amazing. I mean, the other thing that I'll say about this is, like a lot of great films, somehow I reckon the aura and the story and much of what is great about it can be condensed into almost like a poem, like a few paragraphs of text. You could summarise this film. It's 2 hours long and he doesn't waste a frame of it. It never feels overlong. It never feels like he's stuffing it. It's
very rare to have an action film that runs for over 2 hours
and to not feel
there's no flab.
Yeah, it's you can. The thing that I took away from it is that you can really sense how much of a difference this film made. It completely changed the game.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's a terrific film. We'll get on to our favourite John Woo films at the end of the episode.
Yeah, I think it's a piece of art. I think it's so hugely influential. I loved watching it again.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen, if you listened to this and haven't seen The Killer, stop whatever you're doing right now.
Yeah.
Go on Amazon.
Okay, Blu-ray time.
Order that Blu-ray.
Yeah.
And let's go on to the next.
Okay.
Next up, from 1992, directed by John Woo, is Hard Boiled. Hong Kong maverick detective Tequila loses his partner in a gunfight. He teams up with an undercover cop to bring down a ruthless gun-smuggling crime mob. Hard Boiled.
On dark streets, where violence consumes everything it touches, and the innocent live in fear, two men, dedicated to justice, will follow different paths. As one searches for revenge, and the other for redemption, fate will bring them together. Now, for those who hide behind the shadow of corruption, only one thing is certain. A day of reckoning is coming. From the director of The Killer and Mission Impossible 2. Fat and Tony Leung in one of the greatest action movies ever made. Hard Boiled.
So Hard Boiled.
Yes.
You've seen it?
I saw it when it came out on VHS, 93 would have been, maybe 94. Liked it. Never saw it again. Well, how about you?
Yeah, I watched it a few times back in the day. Definitely more than once. Not as much as The Killer, but I've definitely seen Hard Boiled a few times.
Okay, so you haven't watched it since then?
No, not since the 90s.
Okay. One thing I took away from this film is the thing that I was thinking throughout it. I started thinking it seconds in, and I never stopped thinking it. John Woo is the best director of action of all time, to the point where if you were to compile a list of the 10 best directors of action, he's all 10. I don't think he has any competition. This is the best directed action film I've ever seen, and in the same way that The Killer changed the game, so did this. He's unmatched. You can't match him. I don't know. The only people that the one director I would say has even close to having a shout is James Cameron.
Agreed. I think he is he's my favourite action director.
He's
the only. Just off the top of my head, thinking about people who are great actors. Gareth Evans, who directed the Raid 1 and Raid 2. Who do you think he's massively influenced by? John Woo.
Without John Woo,
without John Woo,
he wouldn't be there. I think you can say that of a lot of directors. When I was a kid, I think John Woo said this. When I was a kid and I was reading movie magazines, I think John Woo likened action to ballet, and I think he said it's like directing a ballet sequence. And watching this film, I was like, he treats dance sequences in films are treated very seriously, and a lot of work goes into them. And I think in action movies there isn't the same degree of care taken. There are scenes in this film where I was the big central action set piece is
one continuous take in the hospital.
That's
we'll fucking incredible.
We'll get to that. The one I was talking about was the warehouse.
Yeah.
Where, as soon as you see that shot of hundreds of extras in the warehouse, you just think, oh my god, this is going to pop off severely. There are so many stunts in that section that I just thought, oh wow, fuck, they did that stunt twice. They must have filmed it twice. And then I realised they didn't. They've taken so much care over each shot. Whereas in most action films, you see the money shot and then it will cut to a shot in the other side, just a stationary camera somewhere else.
Yeah. You have a lot of second unit stuff. Yeah. Whereas all of this is first unit. John Woo is.
The cameras are all moving. You're cutting between stuff where fucking things.
The choreography and the timing is just...
It's composed with the same amount of care as most dance sequences are, and I don't know why more directors don't do it. I kept thinking, wow,
it must take a fucking long time to shoot.
A lot of work, a lot of equipment, a lot of it. It's not even feasible to do that. I don't think. I think John Woo was at such a point in his career. I don't even know if he could make a film like Hardboiled again, even when he went to America.
Yeah. I think from the opening bell, there's a shootout at a bird-filled tea house.
Yeah.
To where Chow Yun-fat never drops the toothpick that's in his mouth.
Yeah, right.
Which is just tantamount to how fucking cool he is. To the climactic battle royale at the hospital that doubles as a weapons cache. I mean, it just packs all of John Woo's stylistic, thematic hallmarks into 120 minutes of unparalleled, amazing fucking excess.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I enjoyed it so much. This is. I don't know. We're going to get to this, obviously, which is the better film. It's so difficult. I think they're two different films. In terms of action alone, it just delivers more action, bigger set pieces. It's got a bigger budget. I think the story, which is very standard issue, cop on the edge, an undercover mole. John Woo finds like great nuances in that code of honour. The guy's an undercover cop. He's a fucking great actor as well.
Yeah, he is.
I think him and Chow Yun-fat play off each other so well.
Yeah. And I love the fact that when the film started, when you watch cop movies, there's always little bits of business that don't really have any... They're kind of padding out the script with stuff. When the chief of police is receiving these coded messages with flowers, I was like, what's that going to be? And I'm like, oh, fuck, it's the way for the undercover guys to communicate with the police. Yeah. Great. Yeah. I'm so used to seeing things like that don't pay off. This is... The Killer is a very unusual... singular film, whereas this is an attempt to take on Hollywood and make a Hollywood action film that's, and it worked.
And trumps Hollywood action films.
It just makes...
There's nothing,
I can't think of it.
There's nothing that's even closely comparable to Hardboiled.
If there is, it's been made since, and it's completely
inferior.
It's inferior, but it also is made by somebody who just wants to be John Woo.
Yeah.
Just the coherence of the action. I'm going to go back to the warehouse sequence. This is an unfair comparison because they're two completely different films. But that warehouse sequence probably goes on for the best part of 10 minutes, and I knew where everyone was. I knew what was going on. Admittedly, it's essentially you're essentially documenting one guy appearing in a room and killing everybody. Yeah. But there is other things going on there as well, and it could have been incoherent. I understood where everyone was. I felt like I was standing in the middle of that warehouse looking around watching it unfold. Yeah. I kept thinking of Ben Wheatley's film Free Fire.
And how badly that was done.
That is a film with a small number of characters in a small space.
But also with a microscopic budget compared to what John Woo has.
And also, But I don't know. I just remember being so annoyed that I didn't know what you need to know where those people are.
It's so important because to be really engrossed in that action, you need to know who's shooting who and what.
Where are they in relation to each other? What's going on? I felt that scene was so good, and just the secondary coverage is shot with so much care. The camera barely stops moving. It is like a dance sequence, and also the physicality of the gunfire and the pyrotechnics, because gunfire in real life is not very exciting. Guns hitting walls is not exciting. Here, the sparks, flames, explosions just from every single gunshot, and it just enlivens everything. But the fact that nowadays people who make action films think that there's something exciting about an actor standing there. Because muzzle flashes are added in post-production. It's guys shaking plastic guns.
Exactly.
This is... I don't even know if we might not see this kind of film again, where it's just fucking spot. I mean, you watch all of those action sequences and just think, somebody got fucking hurt doing it.
Yeah. Without a doubt.
A lot of
without a doubt. I thought that in The Killer as well. Yeah. There were extras falling from, and you're thinking, what? Yeah. What was the insurance payouts with John Woo?
I don't think the situation would exist where you could make a film.
I think you could be so gung-ho in China, do you know what I mean? Quite literally. Also, what I loved about this as well is that I love the eye-patched the henchman of Johnny Wong. Yeah. He's fucking great. He has his own single-loading fucking cool gun, which sounds cool when he fires it off.
I'm pretty sure that's the same gun that Lance Henriksen has in Hard Target. Isn't it? Because he has that single shot.
The single shot thing. Yeah,
I think that's probably.
He's fucking cool. And what they do here is the close hand combat is done fantastically well. There's a prolonged fight scene with Johnny Wong, who's actually watching the security footage when he finds out finally that he's been completely fucked over, and they're battling this fucking hard as fuck patch guy. Just done brilliantly well. And also the comedy in there is great. You know, there's a when Chow Yun-fat's holding the baby and he's firing off, popping, killing people left, right, and centre, and then he goes to the baby. That's X-rated, and he covers the baby's eyes so he can't see him killing someone.
And then, I mean, it's a joke. I mean, obviously it's a joke, but there's a scene where his trousers are on fire and the baby pisses and puts the fire out. This is what I mean. This is an attempt. It's very much an attempt to try and beat Hollywood at their own game, and they do it. It has that kind of humour. It has and that, again, it's another bromance. It's a lot plottier than The Killer. It's a little bit sillier, but that goes with the territory. But
it's certainly not as a tight and succinct narrative as The Killer.
However, I mean, before we started talking, I thought, I don't know which way I'm going.
For me, you could ask me 7 days of the week, you could ask me 3 days of the week, I'd be different. I actually cannot tell you which one I like more. If you look at it purely from what delivers more action. Well, Hardboiled does deliver more action, but to be honest, I'm a real sucker for that somber tone, and it was very kind of. There was no flat. I didn't feel there was any kind of excessive plot threads that were going on, which a little bit happened in Hardboiled. I just think it was really tight. The narrative was so tight.
I know what you mean. Like I said, I think you can condense The Killer into a poem, but
and I think the church shootout is fucking phenomenal. I really like the scene when they have their names Dumbo and Mickey Mouse in the house. Is done so well. But then I look at Hardboiled and I think the continuous take of the hospital shootout scene is just mesmerising. I mean, I find this incredibly difficult. I think they're both such huge standout films. The choreography and technique on display is just John Woo at his pinnacle.
If you had to pick one of these films to watch, I would say watch both of them. But to be honest,
it's a double bill all day long.
In the course of talking about this, I was on a high from the second it started to the end of Hardboiled. I just feel like this is probably. It's got a shout as being the best action film of all time, just in terms of what they pulled off. I can't believe some of the stuff that I think it's treated with the same care that dance sequences are. The excitement is so amplified because so much of it is real, and John Woo's the way he uses just you can fire a gun into the wall and there'll be an explosion. It's ridiculous, but if anything's going to amp you up and make you more.
But what they've done about that is they put the care into emptying out rounds of ammunition and creating that. I think both are masterpieces of the genre. I think I have always got a soft spot for The Killer because it was the first John Woo film that I ever saw.
Right. I mean, I can understand. I mean, it's a more well-rounded film, and if you didn't, I mean, the thing that I like most about Hardboiled is that it's kind of taking the piss and making a mockery of most Hollywood action films. It takes the tropes, it takes pretty much the plot of so many Hollywood action films and just pisses on them from a high height. It makes those look
redundant
completely, and he did. I mean, he's the best. He's the best action film director there's ever been. I can't imagine who's going to come and usurp him because he's at the top of the tree.
I mean, the Killer as well is that I think the thing. I referred to it earlier on is that I didn't think at any point really was Chow Yun-fat going to die in Hardboiled ever. Whereas I think he was much more fallible in The Killer.
The Killer is a true original. Hardboiled is a take.
And it's really through a friendship that's been completely betrayed, and that was really a slow build, and it was built up. I cared about the characters more in The Killer than I did about Hardboiled. So for that side, that part of it, I think The Killer is stronger than Hardboiled. But if you're just going on purely action set pieces, it delivers more than The Killer.
Yeah, but which way? I mean, I have to say it's Hardboiled. From beginning to end, I was just. But then again, I will always appreciate something that takes a formula, i.e. Hollywood action movies, and then just not only subverts it in certain ways, makes it so much better. I mean, the action is so much. Everything about it's so much better than what it's sort of a takeoff of. The Killer stands alone. It's a unique film. And when it doesn't involve any prior knowledge.
And when did this surely started? I can't even recall in that year Hollywood films having an anti-hero. having a
No, again, both of these films, I think they were sort of bringing in a new era. These were on the cusp of something, because this was the 80s. Even the beginning of the 90s was where like, Hollywood would absolutely not allow a happy ending. Yeah. So.
And also, I did have to say, I did like the comedy of like the boss that would never die.
Yeah, right.
In The Killer is fucking gags.
Completely.
I find it very hard to separate these two. I think they're so fucking important, and they should be watched together.
Yes.
Forever.
Yeah.
If you ever watch one of these films, you have to watch the other one straight away.
I agree, but I'm picking Hard Boiled.
Ah!
I've got it.
I mean, you could ask me tomorrow, I'd say Hard Boiled. You could ask me next week, I'd say The Killer. They're interchangeable for me.
What matters last week and tomorrow doesn't matter. What do you think today?
This is difficult. I can't deny that Hard Boiled. John Woo, you go and see action. Oh, fuck, I don't know.
Yeah, but this
I don't want to choose.
I don't want to choose.
I'm not going to.
I know.
Stop it. Leave it alone.
Okay. Shall I order for both of us?
Tell you what. Say again. Order for both of us. Now, I'll tell you what, if I say to myself, which one do I want to go and see in the cinema right now? If you could take me to an IMAX and show me one of those films, it would be Hard Boiled.
Yeah.
So,
that's it.
Hard Boiled.
Okay, all right. Well, that's it then. Hard Boiled is better, although you should watch both of these films. And so The Killer, is The Killer still your favourite John Woo film?
On a par with Hard Boiled.
Okay.
It's my first one. I've got a relationship with it.
Mine's Bullet in the Head.
Oh, Bullet in the Head's wicked.
That's his best film, I think.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Okay, all right. Well,
I mean, I haven't seen Bullet in the Head for a very, very long time.
Neither have I. Maybe we should try and pair it with something. But
and maybe for a better tomorrow.
Yes, or maybe the sequel would be better.
Better tomorrow too.
So the way they were made was very interesting, and the differences in the way they were made. But anyway,
really better than these two.
Bullet in the Head. I haven't seen it in a long time. Though Bullet in the Head was the film that I thought was.
I think you bought Bullet in the Head for me.
Oh, did I? I thought I did. Yeah. How random. Okay. All right. Well, anyway, the winner this time out is Bullet in the Head. Sorry, Hard Boiled. Check out both of them if you can, and you should. We'll be back in a couple of weeks with another episode. Check out our Sorry, you're doing this, aren't you?
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
You just can't get the staff these days. Thank you very much for listening. If you have seen The Killer, if you've seen Hard Boiled, if you're like, no, I don't agree with you, I do agree with you, get involved. Get involved in the chat. Twitter, Facebook. All of our episodes are cut to video and available on our YouTube channel. iTunes reviews help the cause massively. And we'll be back in a couple of weeks.
Take it easy.
Chumless.
Cult film face-off.
Okay, we had any correspondence on these two?
Yep, we had a few on these. Hard Boiled, Rob Campbell, Wiley Times. I got my VHS copy of Hard Boiled at Canadian Tire. In brackets, that's a hardware store in Canadian language. When I was about 11, so I'm always going to bet on my boy Tequila.
that's the one. Yeah, I totally agree with that.
He also adds, the hospital hallway shootout is just logistically mind-blowing. Yep, totally. Ian Loader, Hard Boiled.
Mm-hmm.
Al Winter, Cruelest Ever, Hard Boiled, in brackets, just. Yeah, I mean, this is what it's all about. These two are just like razor tight, close together.
And yet everyone picked Hard Boiled.
Yeah, I think it's just because it's more bombastic, there's more action in it. But I mean, any day of the week, whatever time when I put it on, I'd prefer one or the other. It's just it's so difficult to make the call.
I'm all about Hard Boiled.
Today we're here in Hong Kong sitting with John Woo, legendary movie director, and asking him questions from our readers. Do your life experiences affect the way that you make movies?
Yeah, when I was a child, as a very poor, I was raised in slum. Whenever I ran out the door or went into the areas, I always got ambushed. I always got beat up, and I got to fight back. I got to fight very hard. At that time, I just felt like I was living in hell. So it was terrible. So whenever I got hurt, I got being attacked or feeling sad, I always like to go into the church. The church gave me a lot of comfort. So that's why I became a Christian. And since I have that kind of life experience, that I also, put that kind of experience into my movies.
You often use birds in your movies. Do you have a special reason for it?
Well, since I'm a Christian, I love, I love the white dove. The dove represents a peace and love and innocence. So that's why I love to use it.
When you came to direct films in the U.S., what was the biggest culture clash that you experienced?
Well, when I made my first American movie, Hot Target, I tried to make Hot Target look pretty much like a Hong Kong movie, but it didn't work. When there's some slow motion shot, they didn't know how to react to it. So they just laugh. So after Hot Target, I took some time to learn so much from the society, and I had to learn what they think, what they feel about everything, and then step by step, start from Broken Arrow and Face Off, and then to use a little more and more and more, for each film, and let the general audience to getting familiar with my style.
Do you have a piece of advice to first and second generation immigrant Asian directors who aspire to be successful in the U.S.?
I think it's no difficulty to work in the States, just as long as you have a good sense of humor. The people are very friendly. If anyone go to Hollywood, I think they should learn from the independent studio, first. I think that it will make things much more easier. And by the other hand, if you want to make a American film, it got to look like an American film, but also it had something different. Try your very best to bring in your own culture into the American film, and I think that's what the American audience want to see it.
I'm interested in Hong Kong movies, but there haven't been any interesting new ones. What's going on?
It's not only happened in Hong Kong. The same thing happened in Taiwan and Japan, Korea. I think the people they all go for the Hollywood movies. They thought the Hollywood movie is the best because they have the highest budget. They have the movie look, the quality looked much better, and the special effect was so great. They have more money. That's what they love to watch. But there's still some great filmmaker. They're still trying their best to make a much better Hong Kong movie. You just wait and see,
You've had a long association with Chow Yun-fat, with classics like The Killer and Hard Boiled, but Chow left the cast of Red Cliff. Are you two still friends, and will you work together again?
Yeah, we are still friends. I still greatly admire Chow Yun-fat as a great actor and a good friend. I really like to work with him. Even though it didn't work out in Red Cliff, but I'm still looking forward to working with him again. And we have a project called The Divide. Is the story about the Chinese worker, the railroad worker in United States. So he's going to be one of the main casts for the film.
I read that you would like to direct a musical.
Yes.
Are you still interested?
Well, I'm dying to make a musical. About 8 years ago, I have got a script. Called the Lakes Diamond. I tried to make it as an action musical, but it was hard to get the finance. And also it was hard to try to get a star, because what we want is a star who can sing and dance and shoot, as well. But I'm still working with it. That if I can't make it in Hollywood, and probably I will try to make it in China.